you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick Podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick Podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. The Eye Test with Pierre, McGuire, and Jimmy Murphy.
The Stanley Cup winning Colorado Avalanche And after 22 years, Raymond Mark!
The sickest NHL podcast. Brought to you by TCS Customs and Logistics. Moving pieces, delivering peace of mind. It's gonna be sick.
And welcome to
set steal. Walks in front of the shot and scores! 97 back in. It's been a master class. Scores! McGuire from McDavid. 2-0 Edmonton.
It hasn't blocked this game. This series is over. Edmonton's heading to the Stanley Cup Final.
All right, a little La Bamba there for the Edmonton Oilers as they are headed to the Stanley Cup Final for the first time since 2006. He is Pierre McGuire. I'm Jimmy Murphy. Welcome to another edition of the Eye Test here on the Sick Podcast Network. Another week. Pierre, what a weekend of hockey. We'll start right there, and then we'll work back to the Florida-New York game on Saturday night. But as we were discussing on the phone, Pierre, I mean, how many times, I don't remember one, where I've seen a team have just 10 shots, especially in a playoff game, come out victorious. But that's exactly what the Edmonton Oilers did. Big credit to Stuart Skinner, credit to Connor McDavid for his goal, and Zach Hyman. And the way that I think, while they were outshot, they did push a lot to the outside. They didn't really give up the middle that much. So a credit to the Edmonton Oilers, who are now heading to the Stanley Cup Final, Pierre.
Before I answer your question, congratulations to Kenny Albert on a fantastic season. He had the first soundbite. Mm-hmm. I'd like to say congratulations to Chris Cuthbert. Unfortunately for Chris, he's still working, and he'll be doing the long slog between Florida and Edmonton. Oh, yeah. And Jack Michaels, the renowned Ithaca Bomber, he went to Ithaca College. Their nickname is the Bombers. What a great, emotional, passionate call. Way to go, Jack. So 3 great calls by 3 really good guys, 3 really, really, really professional broadcasters. And for one of them, it's over. And for the other 2, they still keep working. Now, as far as the Edmonton Oilers go, that was unique. Mm-hmm. Jimmy, I'm convinced that this series swung on the first night of the series when they had a 4-minute power play in the first overtime, Dallas, that is, against Edmonton, and Jason Robertson hit the post twice. Once on the far post, one on the near side post. They didn't score, Dallas didn't, and then it goes to the second overtime, and Evan Bouchard makes a spectacular play to Connor McDavid, who finishes the playoff. And right from there, I remember talking to you the next day, Dallas is in trouble because once you lose a multiple period overtime game, especially to start a series, it's hard to dig out of the hole. Mm-hmm. And you could see, even though Dallas in Game 4 had a 2-0 lead in Game 4, you could see they weren't right. Now, that's Game 4 of the series. That's 3 games past the first night. And you could just see. And then they went home and they got beat pretty soundly at home. And then last night, 2-0 Edmonton. And then Edmonton stopped working. They played, kitty bar the door type of style hockey. And Stuart Skinner did what he had to do. So if you were to ask me, was that a normal Game 6? No, it wasn't. But Edmonton, I think, did their thing in Game 1, and it really caused Dallas problems.
Yeah, and like you said, Pierre, just Connor McDavid too. If anyone ever doubted, I don't know anyone that did, but if you were ever doubting his leadership, man, did he show it in this series, Pierre? What he did for Darnell Nurse earlier in the series, and
after Game 3, so yeah. it's the press conference before Game 4, and he was great. He was really good.
That was great.
I said it last night on Stanley Cup Central on the NHL YouTube channel. I'll say it again. That was a major turning point in the series.
Yep.
Because even though Game 4 started badly for Edmonton, they found a way to get it back, and I think Connor was the guy that helped get it back because of the way he treated his teammate Darnell Nurse.
Yeah, it was amazing, and Nurse was such a better player after that. He was he really turned it up. What did he have? 12 or 11 block shots in the next game or something like that, or hits?
Hits. 12
yeah,
hits.
I mean, he was everywhere, man. And then you look at last night, Pierre, too. Some of the they weren't contributing offensively, but the bottom pairing defensemen or the secondary forwards, they're all chipping in. Everyone was pulling on the rope, and it was a good team effort. And I look at this Oilers team right now, Pierre, and I don't want to get too far ahead because I want to discuss the Rangers and Panthers, and then we'll kind of start to explore the Stanley Cup Final. But I think the one topic that I think we're going to come back to a lot this week as we prep for that Stanley Cup Final is the Florida Panthers' physical style and the way that you put it, they drag you into a street fight versus the Oilers' power play. And can the Panthers still play that game with the danger of the Oilers power play? Like, can they walk that line? Because they're going to have to walk it really right down the middle. Because if they slide over the wrong way and start to give power plays to Edmonton, it could backfire on them. But who knows? To this point, they haven't. To this point, they have really walked the line.
The standard for how the refereeing will be in the Stanley Cup Final will be a very important standard.
Yes.
If they decide to loosen the standard and allow players their physical space to play, that plays into a positive way for the Florida Panthers. If the standard is shrunk and they say you can't do this, 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 and this, and Florida decides, well, you didn't call it before, why are you going to call it now? Then Florida's going to have a problem. Mm-hmm. So that's going to be down to Paul Maurice, and it's going to come down to Billy Zito. This will be an interesting one because the management and the coaches get together with the series manager.
Yeah.
And so this will be an interesting one for both teams. It won't get a lot of attention away from the or in the media, but it's an important part of the series, how they talk about how the series is going to be played before the series starts.
For sure. In your experience, Pierre, just when you think back off the top of your head, how much does it change from a conference final to the Stanley Cup Final in terms of how the refs let things go or don't let things go and the standards they set? Do you recall any of the finals that you worked with, whether as a coach or as a broadcaster, that it was a drastic change, or is it just sort of slight differences?
I don't remember anything being drastic, but I do remember them letting more go over the course of 34 years. I think there's a pretty good sample size.
Okay.
And I would say that usually in the final they don't call the game as rigid as they do maybe in the regular season or in the let's just say the first two rounds of the playoffs. I think once you get to the conference final, it's kind of they loosen it up a little bit. But as long as the standards adhered to by everybody working the games, I don't think the teams have a problem. But I do think it all starts with the meeting with the series manager, between the management teams and the coaching staffs and the series manager. And it's really going to be important for Florida, more so than it would be for Edmonton.
Yep, for sure. By the way, one thing we should point out, maybe the only negative last night, besides the amount of shots they got, but the only other negative for Edmonton too, look at Vander Kane is hurt. And Pierre, he's the type of guy that they're going to need against the Florida Panthers. He fits in. If there is a street fight or it starts to veer that way, he's a guy that can play that game. How important is he going to be for the Oilers to have him in the lineup?
I saw something. If he was playing, I could see something early in game one with him and Bennett or him and Tkachuk.
Yeah.
I'm not kidding. Again, not trying to be draconian or nasty or mean ill will, but I could see that happening.
Yeah.
Because they're going to Edmonton will want to stabilize both of those guys, but one in particular. Yeah. I think they'll want to stabilize Tkachuk pretty quick. There's never been a lot of love between that kid and the Edmonton Oilers. I mean, it's pretty graphic.
Yeah. And you think about it, I mean, too, Kane saw him a lot when they were in the Western Conference, when they were with Calgary. So there's some history there. All right, on the other side of that series to the losing team, Pierre, the Dallas Stars, some really emotional interviews afterwards. I don't know if you saw Tyler Seguin, just talking about how hard it is to win the Stanley Cup and just, the learning experiences you continue to pile up. And, he's wondering, do you ever get a chance? You have to keep trying to adhere, take them and adapt and take what you learn and move forward. But sometimes you wonder if you're ever going to get a chance to reap the benefits of those lessons there. And, for a guy like Joe Pavelski right now, you have to wonder, Pierre, if this is it, will we see him in the NHL next season?
Yeah, Pavelski and Suter are both guys from the 2003 draft class. One was in the first round, Suter to Nashville, and the other guy was 205th to San Jose. I mean, It's unbelievable that both of them are still playing. I think with Joe, it's going to be interesting because he needs a contract.
Mm-hmm.
Here, I'm just free advice is what it's worth. Okay, it's free.
Mm-hmm.
Take it for what it's worth. If I were the San Jose Sharks, and knowing that Dallas probably isn't going to bring him back, and Joe has a passion to keep playing, and knowing that you're going to have Will Smith there, a college player, knowing you're going to have Macklin Celebrini, a college player, knowing that Joe went to the University of Wisconsin, knowing that he was a drafted and cultivated player at the San Jose Sharks, I don't know how you wouldn't want to see.
That is a great call, Pierre.
If he wouldn't have interest in going there.
That's a great
I thought of it last night, and I said, I've known Joe a long time.
Yeah.
Just utter respect, unbelievable respect for him. Just how he carries it. Forget the hockey side.
Yeah.
Just how he carries himself as a person. He's a man. He's a man of honor.
Yep.
I would, if I were involved with management there, I would be already on the phone with Dallas to see what's Joe going to do. And if they tell me Joe's probably not going to play anymore, I'd say, do you mind if we call his agent? Do you mind if we call Joe? Because I think that's – remember how we talked about it when we found out Smith was leaving, and so Celebrini probably going to turn pro. And I said to you, they better sign some mature free agents to lead those guys because it's going to be hard there.
Yeah.
But Joe would make it a lot easier.
Oh, for sure. I mean, look what Chicago did when they brought in Foligno. Look at the effect he had on Bedard. It was great.
Nicky's a good person. He's a lot like Joe. The different style of play.
Yeah, of course.
But person-wise, very similar. Very similar.
You ever golf with Joe?
Joe Pavelski? No, I've never golfed with him.
I heard he's amazing.
I've watched him golf.
Okay, I've heard he's really good, eh?
You know what, Jimmy? He's probably a better baseball player.
Really?
He was a phenomenal baseball player coming out of high school. There were a lot of people that told me he should have been major league drafted baseball.
What position was it, I
have no idea.
Okay, wow.
A heck of a player. And his real good buddies, J.J. Watt. He and J.J. Watt are really, really tight.
Yeah, I don't know if it was Sagan or might have been Ben last night when they were talking about Pavelski, and he's, I'm going to miss the golf lessons. He made us all better golfers. He's saying that was great.
It's his hand-eye coordination. It's kind of like when you see him chipping pucks.
Yep.
Kind of the way he plays golf. His hand-eye is amazing. His game around the greens is awesome to watch. He's really, really good around the greens.
So one more question about Dallas, Pierre, and we'll move on. If you're Jim Nill and you're looking at this team right now, and we'll kind of maybe get into this question with the Rangers later too, and you're evaluating, okay, where is my core gone? Where are they? Can they go further? Is there something left in this core, or do I need to start to reevaluate and maybe start to transform into a new core? What are you thinking?
Well, they got to make a decision on Tanev. So he's 35. I still think he's got major game left. I do. So they got to make a decision on him. They're going to have to make a decision on Matt Duchene. Again, he's not getting any younger either. And I thought his play kind of tailed off a little bit. Obviously, huge magic in the Colorado series, and people will remember that, especially because it was in Colorado. So those are two big decisions for them. I still think they need fine tuning. I know so many of the people have said they're a great drafting team. They are. They're very good. They're a great development team. They are. They're very good. I know a lot of the players they have down in the American Hockey League. They're good players. They've called up Maverick Bourque yesterday. I got to think Maverick Bourque's going to start the season in the NHL next year. They've got a lot of good stuff filtering through their group. I'm defensive at forward, but I still think they need some NHL bodies to get them to the next level. Ready NHL bodies.
Okay. So
I would say that there's going to be some tweaking going on there.
Tweaking, though, nothing major.
I don't think major. I think tweaking.
Okay.
I still think a good portion of that core is really good.
And how do you feel about the whole playoff body of work by Jake Ottinger?
So let's go letter grade, because I think that's easier to do.
That's fine.
I'm going to say he was a B.
And you're talking the whole playoff run, right? Not this period. Okay.
There were margins where I'd say he was an A, and there were other margins where I'd say he was a C+.
So we'll even it off with the B.
So I'm kind of looking at it, trying to be fair. I thought he would be better. I got that wrong.
Mm-hmm.
I thought he would have been better.
I did too. I'll own that.
I mean it, Jimmy. I thought he was going to be the golden ticket to the final for them.
Yeah.
Just looking at the goalies in the Western Conference that he would have to play against.
Right.
Going into every series. So against Vegas, he was the better goalie.
Mm-hmm.
You know, against Colorado, he was the better goalie. Against that, I'm talking about on paper.
Yep.
Going against Edmonton, he was a better goalie. It didn't work out that way.
No. You know, and I look at it too. I mean, and I'm not making excuses for us. We just tell like we see it. But you did kind of get the feel like he was one of these goalies who was just ready to get to that next level. You know, he's been knocking on the door, banging it down, and it just felt like he was going to bust through this in this playoff season, Pierre. Like you said, get them to the final, but it didn't happen. So we'll see what happens. By no means do I think he's the issue that they lost. I don't think he's the main reason they lost. I think it was a collection of things, specifically some of the stuff discussed. But he's a good goalie. He'll bounce back. They'll be a team to reckon with next year for sure. All right, let's go to that Rangers-Panthers series. I think that game kind of went pretty much how you'd expect, the way the series had been going and where it was heading. And the Rangers are done. Once again, the President's Trophy winner has now not won a Stanley Cup since the Chicago Blackhawks in 2013. And of course, that was a lockout-shortened season. So some people I saw on Twitter weren't counting that. It still did. It was still a season. They played it, and they won the President's Trophy, and they won the Cup. It's not like that didn't happen. There's no asterisk next to that in my eyes. But anyhow, that goes on, that crazy jinx, and the Rangers go home, and we'll get to them in a bit, but let's talk about the team that won and celebrate them. And Pierre, I think right now, you look at the way they're playing, you look at the momentum they have and the cohesion they have and the way they're buying in. They know who they are, and what they need to do. I give the slight edge heading in to the Florida Panthers. This team right now, like I texted you the other day, I said, I don't know what's going to stop them. I mean, this team just looks poised to raise the Stanley Cup.
Well, we'll see. I don't like to overhype it. You know, I think that's part of what happened with the Rangers, but we'll get to that a little later. Florida's good. What I'll say is I thought you said it perfectly well, and I'll echo what you said. They know who they are, and they know how they have to play.
Mm-hmm.
So they're not going to cheat the game. They're not going to try to be a slickster team when they're not slick.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to be a pound. They're going to be a ground. They're going to be in your face. They're going to be nasty. They're going to be street urchins. They're going to drag you into a street fight, and you better be tough as nails. And if you're not going to win. That's just how they play. They know who they are. But Jimmy, you know, it's kind of become cool to talk that way about them. We were talking about these guys like this 3 months ago, 3.5 months
Way
ago.
back.
They were. If people actually watch the games, and not saying people don't watch, but if you really watch the games, you'd know how Florida played. This wouldn't be a revelation to you.
Yep. No, it wouldn't. And that's what's so interesting, Pierre, is that each opponent they face as they go on in the playoffs here, it's kind of like we know what they are. Like, so why can't we stop them? Why can't we figure it out? If we know exactly what they are, what they're going to do, why are we struggling? Why are so many teams, well, not so many, but, you know, the teams in the playoffs, why are they struggling to figure out how to beat them? And I guess it's just, it's not figuring it out. It's just who you are. Maybe the rosters aren't built to contend with what the Florida Panthers are.
There's ways strategically to beat them, though. There are.
Okay.
I wasn't privy to the meetings that Tampa had before their first round. I wasn't privy to the meetings that Boston had before the second round. And I wasn't privy to the meetings that the Rangers had going into the Eastern Conference Final. But I know one thing. All three of those teams got hung out because Florida dominated them on the forecheck.
Mm-hmm.
So there's certain things you need to do if you're going to beat a team with an aggressive forecheck. I never saw any of those three teams that lost, Tampa, Boston, or New York, do anything to deal with the forecheck.
That's what I'm getting at.
I never saw it at all. Now, I don't know if they had bad intel. I'd be shocked at Tampa having bad intel because they're their cross-state rival.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Boston played them last year, and they lost in the seventh game, so I'd be shocked if they would have bad intel. Yep. The Rangers-Tampa have kind of become a thing because of all the different playoff series. So I don't know how these guys weren't ready for it, but all three of those teams were not ready to play against that aggressive forecheck team.
Yeah.
I got to believe Edmonton will be, but I don't know that.
We don't know.
I don't know that.
Who knows? Who knows? Interesting take here. And I want to credit our good friend, Jeff Marek, who has a show, the Jeff Marek Show on Sports. And I was listening to him earlier today, Pierre. He made an interesting point. He said, don't the Florida Panthers remind you of the 2011 Boston Bruins? And isn't it ironic that the GM of the Florida Panthers was Tim Thomas's agent?
He was.
And watching those teams and watching his client when he was with the Bruins, all those times, did a lot of it rub off on him? Did he register that in his head and take some of what he learned and apply it when he was constructing the Florida Panthers? I thought it was a great point to bring up by Jeff.
He could have. It's a fair point. I love intel like that. I think that's really useful.
Connection, right?
But, again, you look at some of the people that work for Bill Zito. They're really competent people, starting with Rick Dudley. Rick Dudley's really good.
Rick Dudley's the best.
Paul Fenton. Paul Fenton's been a general manager in this league in a long time. He ran the drafts in Nashville and did a really good job. So he works there too.
Mm-hmm.
Luongo, who was part of the 2011 Vancouver Canucks,
there you go.
He works there too. So that game is kind of a cool thing, and I'm glad Jeff did that. I think there's a lot of merit to that, but I also know there are a lot, like, you got to spend time. You haven't yet, but when you get a chance, hopefully we can get you with him. Rick Dudley's a heck of a hockey guy.
I was going to say, when you said Rick Dudley originally there, I was going to chime in and say one of the most underappreciated hockey ops people, at least in my lifetime, in my opinion. And then when you said Fenton, I'm like, well, Fenton's another one, a guy like that, people like us, Pierre, in the game, especially you with all the context, you know who these people are. You know how much they've done. But for the general public, these are guys that do a lot behind the scenes that they don't see and should probably get a lot more credit. And I'm glad you brought up Duds and Fenton because they really are great hockey guys.
No, they got a really good front office, and I like how progressive Billy Zito's been in terms of developing this goalie culture thing that they're doing. Because I do think it will pay long-term dividends. Mm-hmm. Because I'm not going to give them the credit for Bobrovsky because they weren't doing it. Okay, they just weren't. But we're going to see because they've signed some free. Obviously, we'll see where Spencer Knight goes with this. Mm-hmm. Long term, I wish that young man nothing but the best.
Me too.
There's a lot of good things going on in Florida. A lot of good things, and one of the best things is, and I've said this a million times to you, Jimmy, whether we're on the air or off, the best teams have an identity.
Yeah, it
doesn't mean that it's going to work every single year.
No.
But every night what the team's going to give you.
Yeah.
Might not work because the other team's got professional guys too, and they got goalies that are good. Some are better than others.
Mm-hmm.
But they have Florida Panthers have an identity. And, back in the day, the Edmonton Oilers had an identity. They had an unbelievable identity. Mm-hmm. You look at the New York Islanders, they had an identity. Mm-hmm. You look at the Pittsburgh Penguins, they had an identity. The Detroit Red Wings had an identity. Teams that have won multiple cups in a short period of time. They all had identities. The Montreal Canadiens in the 70s had an identity.
Yep.
The big bad Bruins had an identity.
Yep.
Broad Street Bullies had an identity. Florida Panthers have an identity.
So our colleague Larry Brooks wrote an interesting column in the Post this morning. I urge people to check it out. Kind of speaking about that, Pierre, and saying it's time for the Rangers to change their identity. Now, if you're looking at the Rangers right now, how would you describe their identity?
Fast and skilled.
That's how
it relies significantly on their goalie. So that's not really an identity, but fast and skilled is.
Yep.
So I don't think they're hard enough. I don't think they're hard enough down the middle. And I think they need serious fine-tuning on the back end.
Me too. Yep. And I think there's going to be some changes. And I suggest people check it out. He was listing how there's some decisions that come up, one of them mainly being Jacob Trouba, the captain there, whose no trade clause, I guess, of 15 teams kicks in on July 1st. So we'll see what happens with that. All right. Pierre, let's look ahead before we get to our questions quickly and just kind of bounce idea. I'm not going to ask you for predictions. I know you don't do that, but right off the top, when the game ended last night, you knew who won, and you start to think about the final. What are you most excited about for this Stanley Cup final?
For Connor McDavid to be on the big stage
Me
for
too.
the first time in his career.
Yep.
Really excited for that. I'm hoping that hockey fans will watch. I don't know how many will. It's unfortunate.
Mm-hmm.
That's the reality. I remember when NBC got the rights, our first Stanley Cup final was Edmonton, Carolina. It's a tough sell.
Yeah.
Our second Stanley Cup final was Ottawa, Anaheim. That's a tough sell. But then we went Detroit, Pittsburgh. Then it started to become
the Blackhawks came.
Yeah, then we had Blackhawks, and we had LA.
Bruins.
Bruin. I mean, you start looking at it, we had a lot of good stuff going on. But the first two were tough. And again, I know what they're going through in the NBC management offices right now. How do we sell this series so that the guy in flyover states is going to want to watch it?
Right. Yeah.
That's important because flyover states is Minneapolis, St. Paul, it's Chicago, it's Detroit. It's the 3Ms. It's Massachusetts where you have, what do you have? The Boston Celtics?
Yeah.
They're playing, right?
Yep.
So the Bruins are long gone. Michigan, there are no Red Wings in this thing.
No.
Minnesota, there's no Wild in this thing. So they got to find a way to get, the people that are hockey people to want to watch. So I don't know how they're going to do it.
Well, that guy you mentioned off the top is one good way to do it.
That's why I brought it.
Yeah.
Brought him up just because that matters. The other thing too, but what I'm thinking about was one, Connor, watching him. But second, I think this is a huge opportunity, bigger than ever. People know Matthew Tkachuk. People know who he is.
Mm-hmm.
This is Matthew Tkachuk's coming out party.
Yeah. Yep. I'm with you on that.
I know most fans, unless he plays in your team, you don't like him. I'm talking about as a hockey operator.
Yeah.
I would want him on my team.
Oh, of course we would. But I also think in terms of selling it to the average sports fan, not, just a psycho hockey fan, but selling to the average sports fan. So you're bringing in a superstar and then you're almost bringing in a villain.
Yeah.
That's some good selling points right there. I'm biased because I love hockey, but that would draw me in, I think, if I was an average fan.
I would try. So I'll give you an example. During the COVID Stanley Cup, I was in Edmonton for 2.5 months. And Edmonton was hosting. They were hosting the whole thing.
Yeah.
Well, they got beat. They got beat by Chicago, so they were out early.
Mm-hmm.
Winnipeg was playing Calgary. Okay. And I said, you can go get the tape. It's on NBC. I said before the game started, I said the number one matchup is going to be Tkachuk against Mark Scheifele.
Mm-hmm.
And if Tkachuk gets him in the trolley tracks, he's going to give it to him.
And
second shift of the game, he did. And that was it for Scheifele. And that was it for Winnipeg.
Mm-hmm. I remember it. So 2 chances to sell right there and draw people in. We'll see what happens. And then Pierre, you look maybe at the goalies too. It's, on paper, it's pretty lopsided. But that being said, I think the performance that Skinner's had since he was pulled in the last round and the way he's bounced back, the poise he's shown, the calmness he's shown, the team's believing in him right now. And when you have the team believing you, that can make you a better goalie than maybe you are. And I see that right now with Skinner. And that's not a knock on him. I'm just saying, he's feeding off them and they're feeding off him. And I love when that happens with a goalie and a team.
I love it when you make these really good points like that. No, seriously, that was really good. That was really good. And I really enjoy that. So I agree. So remember we talked about after game 3, going into game 4, they had that daytime podium.
Yes.
And I still marvel that they had Stuart Skinner, their starting goalie, facing the music
on a game day.
McDavid. Now McDavid stole the show. But you don't think with Stuart Skinner being up there, that didn't get the attention of his teammates?
Yeah.
And it didn't get some credibility with his teammates to say, you know what, this guy's got guts.
Yeah.
He's tough. I can go to war with him because he's tough.
Yep.
And I think it mattered.
Yep.
I didn't agree with it. I still can't believe Edmonton let the management let them do that. But I'll tell you what, it was a turning point in the series because of the way McDavid handled it.
I'm wondering now, Pierre, whether it's Knobloch, whether it's Coffey, whomever, somebody with the coaching staff or even the players, did McDavid and Skinner say we want to do it? Like, I don't know if we'll ever get to the bottom of whose choice it was to make them available that day, but I wonder if it came from within the team, within the locker room, saying we need to send this message loud and clear that we're unified and we'll face the music on again. I just wonder, like it will mean.
Yeah, no, I don't. I have no idea, but it's a great.
I wonder too. I mean, if so, what a strategy! What a strategy!
You follow this stuff because of your social media stuff
Yeah.
really well. I don't know what happened before the game yesterday. I don't know if they even did one of those yesterday. I have no idea.
No, they didn't. No, they didn't.
Okay, why?
I know.
Because they got burned. They weren't doing that again.
Yeah.
There's no way they were doing that again. So
interesting stuff. All right, quickly, before we get to our questions in the comments section here, Pierre, we'd be remiss if we didn't wish a congratulations to Saginaw for winning the Memorial Cup yesterday. So congratulations to them. As I said to you texting, I was a little frustrated that it wasn't earlier in the day, maybe at 4 p.m., knowing that you had a Game 6, a potential clincher in the NHL and the Stanley Cup playoffs, but instead they go head-to-head with it. So I had the Memorial Cup on my laptop and I had the Game 6 on the TV, but so be it. But great win by them. Not a lot of people gave them a chance, just saying, they're just lucky to be there because they're the host team. But they proved everybody wrong, so good on them.
I talked to a lot of people about who they thought was going to win the Memorial Cup, and most people were London, and rightfully
That's all
so.
I heard too.
Kept here in London. Now, rightfully so. The Hunters have done an unbelievable job there, and they have a roster full of great players. They really do. But I know Saginaw was hosting, and Saginaw had lost to London all year long. It's hard to keep beating a team all the time.
Yeah.
Because at one point, something's going to go off the track.
Right.
And Saginaw found that one night where it went off the track, and they took advantage of it. I think it's great. I do.
Yeah. It's a great win. Exciting stuff in front of the home crowd too. That's always fun as well. And for the Canadians fans out there, got to be psyched about Owen Beck getting the MVP. So good for him. Congratulations to him. All right, let's go to Montreal right now, where our sponsor is, and tell you about them right now. TCS Customs and Logistics. You want to go there right now, unlock the full potential of your shipping operation with TCS Customs and Logistics, from around the corner to around the world. Flatbeds to air freight, customs clearance to drawback consulting. TCS is a one-stop shop for all things transport, moving pieces and delivering a peace of mind. For no obligation customs or freight quote, contact sickpodcast at shiptcs.com. Again, that is sickpodcast at shiptcs.com. And we appreciate them being on board and sign up again for next year. Psyched to be working with TCS. All right, let's get to the questions here on a Monday afternoon. By the way, going to be weird. No hockey all week, Pierre. Monday through Friday, no hockey games. I bet Melanie's good. Melanie must be happy like Monica is.
Do you remember what we used to tell our viewers that used to send us questions about the draft? What do you think I'll be doing this week?
That's it. There we go. So we'll start to research that. Hopefully you still have your questions that we couldn't answer before. Bring them up next week because we'll get ready for this. All right. Sorry, I didn't mean to avoid that question. What do we got? Mike. It seemed like Miro really interesting you bring that up, Mike. Miro really slowed down in this last series. They need to monitor his ice time moving forward. Well, I want to credit Pierre because he immediately on that goal, McDavid pointed out both on air and to me in a text that he was, Heiskanen was at fault for that, or partly to blame, but nobody was blaming him. They were just blaming Steele. Hey, Pierre?
Yeah, no. Do they have to watch Miro's minutes? I'd say yeah. Yeah, but he's such a special player. It's like when Niedermeyer played in New Jersey, effortless. Heiskanen's the same. It's like when Leach played with the Rangers, Zubov played with Dallas or New York or Pittsburgh. They're guys out there. They just can log minutes and they're effortless. They're so efficient as players. Hughes out in Vancouver is another one. So I think they'll watch his minutes, probably keep it around 25 minutes a game, try to keep it less than 26. But we'll see. But he's such a good player. He's such a good player.
Oh, he's awesome. He's awesome. And it happens to the best of them. There's
Yeah.
nothing you can do. When a guy's pulling off a move like that,
We're talking about one of the most exceptional talents in the
you just got to accept it. Yeah.
It's not
unreal.
like the last generation. It's like the history of the game.
Yeah. He's amazing. He's amazing. Yeah. Actually, like, who was it? Dale Arnold, Pierre, that used to work with Ness and do
sure.
Yeah, you know Dale. He posted last night. He said, I think who do he have? Gretzky, McDavid, and Orr, he said, are the most talented he's ever seen in his lifetime. I chimed in and said, I don't know. I'd still have Mario ahead of McDavid, but I think McDavid's creeping in there right now.
If you're even being thought about in those names, that's pretty special.
Pretty amazing, huh?
Pretty amazing. And he belongs there.
Yeah.
He really does. I mean, I know people are going to say, McGuire, you and Crosby. Crosby's got to be in there. He has to be.
He has to be.
Just with the consistency over time. Like, remember now, McDavid hasn't won the cup yet.
I know.
He's won an Olympic gold medal.
Yep.
Yeah, let's slow down a little.
Exactly. That's kind of what I said. Let's see how he does in this. Credit to him. He's got a team in the cup final now. So that's the first step. So let's see what he does there. All right, next question. Randy Workman, Jimmy and Pierre, can the Panthers stop that power play of the Oilers?
Yes, they stopped the Rangers, and I can tell you right now, if I were the Edmonton Oilers scouting staff, I'd be pulling tapes of Pat Burns coach teams killing penalties, Jacques Lemaire coach teams killing penalties, because Sylvain Lefebvre is doing a lot of the penalty killing stuff down there in Florida with Tuomo Ruutu, and Sylvain played for Jacques Lemaire and Pat in Montreal and also in Toronto. And obviously Jacques Lemaire had a big part of it as well, just because he passed on so much to those guys in Montreal and eventually led to Toronto. I would be watching some of the tapes of how they did it, and then I'd watch Florida tapes because their body and stick positioning in Florida is exceptional.
It's crazy. It's amazing.
It's exceptional. Jimmy, I don't think I've ever shared it with you on the air. When I was coaching the league, Jacques Lemaire was coaching and Larry was his assistant in New Jersey. And you go watch them practice, and I'd say good portions of their practice, you'd be like, what are they doing? And it would just be where guys stood, where their sticks were, and how they had to react to where the puck was.
Okay.
It was almost like he was the puppeteer.
Wow.
And you would sit in this, nobody would be at those. I'd be just sitting in the stands having a cup of coffee watching, and it'd be like, fascinating. Really neat. Then he's coaching in Minnesota with Mario Tremblay and Mike Ramsey, and I'm watching. And it's the same thing. I'm like, okay, there's a reason why in 2003 they got to the Western Conference Final. They lost to Anaheim, but there's a reason why.
Yeah.
Well, if I were Edmonton, I'd be going back and looking at some historical stuff with Montreal and Toronto and New Jersey.
Yep. I'm liking it. All right, next question. Kathleen, Pierre, did you ever coach with or against McDavid? He seems like a very grounded guy.
Never coached against him. Watched him since he was a young man growing up in the Toronto area. I know he spent a lot of time around Curtis Joseph's rink on his property back in the day. But I would tell you this. He's really – there's a lot of Crosby, very similar to Crosby, very similar to McKinnon. These guys are driven to another level. I say – I train all these young men in Boston right now, Jimmy, and tell them all the time, you guys think you're working hard? You're not even going halfway to where these guys are. So they're great because they have talent, but they're also great because their motor never stops. They just train all the time.
They set such a high standard.
It's amazing.
All right, next question. Jeffrey B. Who does Sam Bennett go after first? With a smiley face.
If you really want me to tell you, I think he's going to go after Leon Draisaitl.
I was going to say
I don't know that, but
yeah,
I'm going to say because I think it's going to get messy.
Yeah. There's going to be a lot of message sending right off the bat in this one.
It's going to get messy because they've only played twice this year.
Yeah.
People forget that. So Florida learned. See, so they've been to the final. They learned from last year.
Oh, yeah.
They can get away from you real quick.
Yep.
And so you got to take advantage of home ice real quick and bury the other team's thoughts that they're going to win.
And especially, Pierre, that's another question I was going to ask you. With the travel here, how big is home ice?
It's big.
Bigger?
It's not like the old days where you're going commercial.
Okay.
I tell the story all the time. We were heading out to Game 3 of the Pittsburgh, Minnesota series on U.S. Airlines from the old terminal in Pittsburgh. And Mario Lemieux had a middle seat and coach. So I don't want any of these guys to tell me how hard it was when we were on a commercial flight.
Wow.
That's true.
Yikes. Hey, credit to the NHL, too. A lot of people complaining about this in the media and fans saying, why are they having 2 days off on the travel days? People, the players are going to need that. They're going to appreciate it, and that's what it's about. They need that recovery time. I have no problem with it.
No problem at all.
Yeah.
But I'm just letting you know, back in the day, those guys that were playing in the Stanley Cup Final, flying commercial.
Imagine sitting in a plane and looking over at Mario Lemieux 2 seats down from you. That's pretty amazing.
Oh, I got some stories for you on the air.
I hope he had like a bodyguard or something, like keep him away from the crazies. But
nobody went near him because Jay Caulfield was around.
There you go. All right, next question. Joe Segreto, can they deal with the penalty kill of the Oilers?
Great one, 14 for 14.
Nobody's talking about
That's a great one.
Yep.
Really good, Joe. Oilers penalty kill was outstanding against a real good power play from Dallas, 14 for 14. Can they? I don't know if Florida's going to need to score as much on the power play as Edmonton will. But can they? They can. I think they can.
Yeah.
The one weapon that they have that it's going to be interesting because they both have big right-hand shooting defensemen. You know, Bouchard's unbelievable for Edmonton, and Montour for Florida is really good too. So that's going to be interesting to see how both those guys, if they get taken out of the series on the power play, how the other team does it. How do they take them out of it?
Yeah.
Because I think both of those guys are really important for their teams.
I think that's a great point, though, Pierre, that you make, that Florida is not going to be as dependent on getting to the power play as Edmonton might be, because Florida is just so good 5-on-5.
Yeah, their cycle game. I don't know who I was talking to today. I apologize. They were asking me about Florida. I said, I haven't seen a team strong side pinch like this since the Bruins in the late 80s, early 90s, when they did it in the small rink. So by that, I mean, if the puck's coming up the left side of the opposition, Florida's right side, their right D's coming right down. And 9 times out of 10, that puck's staying in the offensive zone for Florida. If the puck's coming around the other side, to the right side, Florida's left, that strong side D's coming right down. And for whatever reason, they're keeping the play alive. Yeah. And that's forcing the other team to defend probably another 15 to 17 seconds, 20 seconds. Then they can't attack. Yeah. They're out of gas. They got to go for a line change.
You know what I want to do?
They're not connected. They're not connected because they're out of gas.
Yeah, exactly. Game 1, I'm going to try and keep a stat in that. The amount of times they keep it in the zone and they keep offensive zone time.
Yeah, it's a great. I was watching it.
Very interesting.
I was working and I was watching, going, their strong side pinch is amazing.
I just remember what they did to the Bruins. I mean, it was frustrating the hell out of the Bruins. You could tell. All right, next question. John Smith, aloha. Do you think that there are already some agreements, deals made prior to the draft, and they're waiting to announce some, like the Doc deal? That didn't go down on the draft floor. Cheers.
There's probably a lot of talk. I don't know if there's been it. So what people need to know, every time a deal is consummated and it's formalized, there has to be a trade call, and the league has to be involved. Back in the day, it wasn't as much, and there could be some, oh, yeah, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. That doesn't happen anymore. Yeah. So you can say, yeah, they had a side deal. It's not going to happen. You got to have trade calls. So do I think there could be a lot of discussion? The answer is yes, I do. And I do.
Yeah, I'm glad they asked that question was asked too, Pierre, because I was going to mention to you, do you think now with a lot of teams up at the combine, some chatter, the guys are sitting around watching together. Does that spark any trade conversations when they're all in one place?
It could, but most of the guys there are amateur scouts, they're not the pro scouts, so it's a little bit different. They're very valuable. Those guys,
they can still be.
They're valuable
on the ground.
And a lot of GMs go, a lot of assistant GMs go. So there could be, but I think more of it's just on the phone right now.
Okay, next question. Enter tap. In a case where travel is much more of an issue than normal, would returning to a 2-3-2 home away scheme make more sense? They used to do that. Yes. Enter tap, I see where you're coming from. I personally can't stand that setup. I like the 2-2-1-1-1. I always felt, and it saw it happen a lot in the NBA back in the day, was if the away team can split in those first two games, there might not be another home game for the home team there. It almost to me gave too much of an advantage to the away team, whereas the home team earned that advantage during the regular season. I just felt like they were getting screwed over there a bit, but that's my 2 cents.
No, it's fair. You're entitled to that. I think that's some really good logic. It's I would rather be.
You want the other way, huh?
Yeah, I want your way.
Oh, okay. You want my way. Okay.
2-2-1-1-1.
Yeah.
I'm a big believer in legacy, tradition. I just am. It doesn't mean there's modern ways you can't do it, but I just think when it comes to winning the Stanley Cup, that really matters.
Yeah. I'm with you on that. Same thing. All right. Next question. Mike asks, can you explain how the Oilers PK has been so good? It's weird that they look better down a man than at even strength. I was thinking the same thing last night, Mike. I really was. Because
their role players are committed defensive players, and their star players that get most of the ice time, they're committed offensive players. So they're a little bit more reckless than the guys that are killing penalties. So it's just, it's part of the process. The one, again, I only can harken back to teams that I've been part of as a coach. And obviously the best one I was around was Pittsburgh. We used Mario Lemieux to kill penalties.
Yeah, I remember that.
Used Ronnie Francis to kill penalties.
Yep. And also, Pierre, you want to credit too Mark Stewart. I know you've been high on the job.
Mark did such a good job in the penalty kill in Edmonton. It could have been really difficult for him. Mark was a really good player at Colorado College, a kid out of Minnesota. He was a captain of the first U.S. team to ever win the World Junior Gold in 2004 in Helsinki. Phenomenal person. Father's been a longtime doctor in the state of Minnesota, and I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of the family. They're really good people. But it could have been nasty when Paul Coffey got in there. It could have been, oh, whoa, he's cutting in on my turf. I run the defense here. And nothing could be further from the truth. I was watching them react yesterday on the bench when they had bench shots, and I thought it was really good. I was really impressed. So there's a mature guy doing a really good job, and he's found his niche. He was a good defensive player when he played, and he's putting forward a lot of his tendencies and tactics that he learned over time.
Yeah, he's one of my favorite players to cover over the years when he was with Boston. All right, next question. Chris Blue Shirts. Hey, guys, end a great Rangers season. Florida was better. Try again next year. Concerning the final, did you know that the top 4 picks in the 2014 entry draft are playing in the final? Great show. I did see that NHL Public Relations tweeted that out this morning. But, yeah, good catch, Chris.
Yeah, the guy that was number 4 is Sam Bennett. He's probably the meanest guy in there.
Remember, he's the guy, Pierre, that was too soft because he couldn't do a pull-up. Remember?
I do, yeah.
Yeah. How's that looking now? Where are those people? All right, next question. Randy Workman, Jimmy and Pierre, do you think the Stars bring back Tanev? Yes, I do.
I think they're going to try.
But I think he stays.
I think they'll try. One of the things that's on their side is Texas is a no-tax state. And I think also Chris knows they have a good team. They have a real good team. And I think he really likes the coaches there.
Yeah.
So we'll see. It is a really good fit. We'll see if it does. But if he were to leave and go anywhere, I don't know. I don't have any inside intel. I wonder if it wouldn't be back to Vancouver. I just wonder if it wouldn't be back to Vancouver. If he were to leave, would he be prepared as a 35-year-old to give him a hometown discount? Because he's a guy that really helped cultivate when he broke in Quinn Hughes.
Yeah.
And I know that they were tremendous together. Really good. And if you look at the way their team is kind of built, there's a spot for him there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't know. If he didn't go back to Dallas, I don't want to start trouble, but if he doesn't, I could see maybe Vancouver being a place he would go back to, but I don't know.
All right, next question. Kathleen, we know hockey players and many of us fans are superstitious. McDavid wore the same suit jacket in games 4 to 6. I saw that. What's the craziest superstition you've ever seen, Pierre?
Probably what I did. I'd walk through all those hotel lobbies not stepping on cracks. People thought I was nuts. I am, but they really kind of thought
Dustin Hoffman and Rain Man. That's what he did.
It was really weird. I don't know how I came up with that, but I did. And then, thank goodness after we were done, I didn't have to do that anymore. You know what I mean? But for 2 straight years when we were winning, I did that. I was really still don't know how that came in my mind, but it did.
Yeah. Trying to think what I had. I used to always I'd always put my right shoe or sneaker on before the left, no matter what. I don't do it anymore, but I don't know. I'll get back to you on that, Kathleen. I know I had a few back in the day. All right, next question. Mike, why is McDavid so unique? He looks like a slinky out there. Good analogy, Mike.
Because he can do everything at such a high rate of speed. He's almost impossible to defend. TV doesn't do it justice.
No.
If you ever got on the ice and just stood there, you wouldn't have to play against him, obviously, but just stood there and felt the breeze when he went by you, you'd be like, whoa, this is different. The first time I was ever working a practice in Pittsburgh, Paul Coffey was on the ice. Mm-hmm. He came by me, and it was a different noise. I had never heard another player so come by you, and it was just like a different noise. They come by, and there's chatter, the skate blades on the ice. With Coffey, it was totally different.
Wow,
it really was. And I have never been on the ice with Connor. I've stood next to him. He skated by me a million times, and he's just so fast. It's ridiculous. So
it's the wherewithal, to know that is the move I got to do right now in this split second. Just the sixth sense he has. It's
his hands and his brain can keep up to his feet. Not a lot of players can do all three.
Bingo. There you go. All right, next question. Enter tap. I believe the insertion of Corey Perry into the lineup for Edmonton during that series really made a difference. Maturity, grit, and experience has changed the Oilers. Thoughts? I'd have to agree. He definitely helped.
How about the hit on Pavelski in Game 5?
Mm-hmm.
Changed the whole dynamic.
Yep.
That game.
Yeah.
So, Corey knows how to win. I mean, he's been in the final. He won in 2007, obviously. I think that's a huge thing. I don't know what happened with Chicago. It doesn't matter anymore. He's long past that. But I've always been a fan. He's always treated me phenomenal.
He's a competitor.
I love how intense he is. I remember watching World Junior in 2005, playing with Crosby and Bergeron, watching him win the Memorial Cup the same year in London, playing against Crosby's team in the final. He's always been a gamer. 2007 Stanley Cup Final, playing in the Olympics. He and Getzlaf, how good they were together. I mean, there's so many. It's amazing what he can do as a guy that doesn't move very well anymore.
It's
not that he ever did, but it's just he's a gamer.
Yep, for sure. All right, next question. The Puck Bunnies. Am I crazy to put zero value in any draft list where the person doing it has not talked to a single player?
Yes.
But we love you.
We love the fact that they're always in touch. So this is one of the things that's become newfangled, I guess, Jimmy. But it's really expensive to see every single player that's in the draft.
Yep.
To be there in person to watch, it's very, very expensive. I don't know too many people that can do that can afford to do that aren't employed by an NHL team.
Yep.
The people that are employed by NHL teams, they don't put their list out publicly.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, I'm with you. All right, next question. Joe Segredo. Why is it still called the President's Trophy when they haven't had a president in over 30 years? Shouldn't it be the Commissioner Cup? Well said, Joe. How about the Jinx? We'll just call it the Jinx Cup.
Oh. You said it before, though. Chicago's the last team to do it.
Yeah, Chicago's the last one to do it. They beat the Bruins.
That was very good by Joe. That was funny.
Yeah, I like it. All right, next question. Brand new. Is it true Paul Coffey wore smaller skates on purpose? Somebody brought this up the other day.
He did.
Because Pasternak does that as well. Okay, he did.
Paul did, yeah. And it caused a lot of pain with his toes, but he did.
Okay.
He did, yeah.
Pasternak apparently does the same thing. All right, next question. Chris Blue Shirts. Hey, guys, one more question if you have the time. Of course, Chris. I see Ottman, Rempe, Bedard, and Zach Jones as everyday players next season. Your thoughts on who they might be replacing? Keep up the good work.
I don't know who they'd be replacing, but I can see Ottman, Rempe, Jones as everyday players. I know Bedard really well. Watched him play for the South Shore Kings. He played on the same team with Matty Beniers, who's playing in Seattle right now, before he went to Providence. Obviously watched him play in Providence a ton. Seen him in Hartford in the American League. He's a point getter. I just don't know where he would fit on an everyday basis with the Rangers at this point. Doesn't mean he won't, but all those other ones I could see that happening.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. Maybe what they do with Trouba.
Well, the only defenseman on that list there was Zach Jones.
Yeah. I think there might be changes up front there, though, too, Pierre. I think you're going to.
No, I think you're right. I just don't know what direction they want to go.
Yeah.
Do they want to change out bottom six guys, or do they want to change out big boys up front?
I think it's big boys. I'm with you. Like we said off air, I don't think it's Kreider, but I don't.
No, I don't think it'll be Kreider.
I don't think Zibanejad's off the table. I think he could be out there.
He might.
We'll see.
I don't know. I hate speculating about that.
Yeah, this is all, and
wait to see how.
We're going to make that clear. It's nothing we know. I'm just looking at players, how they might change that lineup. All right, next question. Real deal prime. Benoit Law, having developed two of the best NHL goalies in the last 2 decades, will not be their coach on day by day next season and is looking to retire. Any thoughts on the man's career? It's amazing.
We've talked about it a lot, though, on this show. Obviously, his brother Francois is a guy that started the butterfly style with Patrick Roy, and it became in vogue really quickly. Benoit didn't really preach that. If you look at how Hank played, Hank really wasn't like that. He played on the icing line a lot, the goal line. So it's a little bit different. I've known Benoit a long time. I like him a lot. I think he's a tremendous communicator. He's an excellent coach. I was there the night he was inducted to the Hockey Hall of Fame, and I heard his speech really well, and he really acknowledged Benoit Allaire. So, no, I'm a big fan. And he's just such a good person. He's 60. I can tell you, the NHL is hard, Jimmy. I know people, those nice hotels, all the good meals you fly up. He's 60 years old. It's a lot of miles. It breaks you down.
Oh, yeah.
It really does. And one of the things, and I've kind of realized this too, there are a lot of events that you missed over the course of your life that you'll never get back. You'll never have another chance to do, whether it's birthday parties, anniversaries, kids' school events, games that your kids are playing in. I get it. I get where Benoit's at right now.
Yep.
Everybody's got a different point where they say, okay, enough's enough. Everybody has that.
Yeah, it's true. All right, next question. Randy Workman, Jimmy and Pierre, if you were the Jackets, would you get permission from the Panthers to interview Rick Dudley? Interesting thought, Randy.
Well, I would say one thing. He's friends with Donnie Waddell.
Yeah, that's right.
I wouldn't be surprised. Now, again, I don't know how that would work out, but I don't even know if Rick would want to leave Florida. I have no idea, but I would want to, if I were Waddell, I'd try to get the best staff available.
Exactly. And Dudley can definitely help. All right, next question. Jeffrey B. Hey, gentlemen, are we surprised how prepared Saginaw was for the Memorial Cup? They were able to limit London to 13 shots with only 6 shots through the first 2 periods. Pretty amazing. Well,
I think it's hard to beat a team as many times as London beat Saginaw this year. I think it's hard to beat a team more. So that was, I think, one of the issues going into that game. Yep. Saginaw knew what they had to do, and London probably wasn't prepared to do what they had to do.
All right, next question. Chris, Connor thinks that game 3 steps ahead of everyone else. Gretzky was the same.
Yeah. We just said that. We agree. We agree with you, Chris. Mario was the same. There are a lot of. Mess wasn't like that. Mess didn't process the game like that. But man, oh man, is he a good player?
All right.
You know who did it really well? Adam Oates.
Adam Oates
could really process the game like that.
Watch him. He's helping a lot of players now too, Pierre?
Yeah, he watched a lot of players. Yeah, he is. Yeah. But he was really good at processing the game. He was really, another guy that was really good at it, Neil Broughton.
Okay.
Bill Broughton was really good at processing the game. Ansei Kopitar, really good process.
Oh, Ronnie Francis.
Ronnie was extremely good at processing the game.
Yeah.
Imagine having that. Ronnie Francis, Mary Lemieux, and Brian Trottier. Makes you a better coach in a hurry. I know that.
Yep. All right. I think that's it with our questions. We appreciate it. I appreciate everyone there and appreciate our crew up in Montreal working the boards as always. And we'll be lining up some guests for the week. We'll have some news tomorrow on that. But until then, enjoy your hockeyless night. Spend it with your loved ones. Rest up, whatever you're going to do, because there's going to be some late nights in this Stanley Cup final. This has been another edition of the Eye Test on the Sick Podcast Network.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Eye Test with Pierre McGuire and Jimmy Murphy on YouTube, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts. Brought to you by TCS Customs and Logistics. Moving pieces, delivering peace of mind.